Okay, picture this. You're at a major international airport, maybe you're waiting for a flight, there's that usual buzz.
Yeah.
And then, bam, sirens start wheeling everywhere.
Yeah, unsettling, right. And announcements are crackling, you can't really make them out. And then you see the flight boards, just rows of red canceled notices flashing up.
Exactly. This wasn't just, a typical flight delay. What went down at Israel's Ben Gurion International Airport on Sunday, May 4th, 2025. Well, it was a pretty stark wake-up call.
It really was. And that's what we're digging into today, this specific missile attack on Ben Gurion. We've been looking through various news reports, analyses, trying to piece together what happened.
What was the immediate fallout? Who's behind it? And how does this sort of fit into the bigger picture?
Exactly. The tech involved, the wider geopolitical mess, especially with the timing. This happened just hours before a really critical vote was scheduled in Israel about possibly stepping up military operations in Gaza.
Wow. Okay, so let's start with that moment, the immediate chaos. What was it like on the ground?
Well, imagine being in that terminal. Our sources describe just instant disruption. Planes halted right there on the tarmac. Roads leading in and out blocked. Everything just stopped.
There was that YouTube transcript too, right? A passenger talking about it.
Yeah, quite vivid. Describing the panic setting in, hearing those sirens, and then apparently a soldier confirmed it, rockets, maybe hitting the airport itself. Flights diverted, plans just up in smoke.
A traveler's nightmare, basically, but amplified.
Massively amplified. And it wasn't just at the airport. Air raid sirens were going off in several different parts of Israel.
Any actual damage? Casualties?
Physically, the damage seems limited, thankfully. Reports mention an impact in an open area near an access road, maybe some damage to a vehicle. But the psychological impact, the sheer disruption, huge.
And injuries. I saw conflicting numbers.
Right. Maiden David Adam reported 4 people lightly wounded. Some other sources, like Anadolu, mentioned 7. So some minor injuries, it seems, but thankfully nothing catastrophic in that regard.
But the flight cancellations, that had a global ripple effect, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't just a local Israeli issue. We saw a whole string of major international airlines immediately suspend flights to Tel Aviv.
Right, cool.
Let's see. Swiss, Australian carriers, Indian carriers were mentioned specifically. Also the Lufthansa group, that's Lufthansa, Swiss, Austrian, again, Brussels Airlines. Then Air Europa, Air France, Air India, Wizz Air, Iberia Express, Ryanair. A lot of big names.
That's a significant list. Anyone keep flying?
Interestingly, yeah. Ethiopian Airlines apparently continued their operations, but the reaction from the others really highlights how seriously they viewed the threat.
And how long was the airport actually shut down?
Police reported that air, road, and even rail traffic were halted initially, but they apparently resumed after about an hour, maybe a bit more. Still, that's a major disruption.
And we have actual evidence of the impact.
Yes, there's photographic and video evidence. AP had photos credited to Ohad Zwigenberg and video from Sam Mednick and Paz Bar. Al Jazeera also verified photos and footage showing the impact site near that access road, so definitely confirmed.
Okay, so it happened. Who did it?
Yeah.
This clearly wasn't, random.
No, not at all. The claim of responsibility came pretty quickly. The Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen stepped forward.
The Houthis? From Yemen. That's quite a distance.
It is. Their military spokesperson, a Brigadier General, Yahya Suri, put out a video statement. He quite proudly announced they'd fired a hypersonic ballistic missile.
Hypersonic. Wow.
Yeah, big claim. Said it successfully hit its target. And he was very clear about the motive. Solidarity with Palestinians, a response to Israel's actions in Gaza.
And he warned airlines, too.
Explicitly. Told international airlines, basically, stay away from Tel Aviv, don't fly there.
Hypersonic. That implies a serious capability upgrade if it's true. Were there other claims floating around?
There were. The pro-Iranian Al-Mayadeen network suggested maybe the Houthis used this attack to test a brand new type of missile.
Testing it on Ben Gurion.
That was the suggestion. And adding to that, a senior Houthi figure, Mohammed al-Bukaidi, basically said they can hit fortified sites inside Israel and that, quote, there are no red lines for them anymore.
No red lines. That's
Yeah.
chilling. It suggests a real confidence or maybe recklessness.
It certainly signals a shift, potentially. Yeah. Whether all the claims about the tech are accurate needs verification, but the messaging is bold. They want Israel and the world to know they can reach out and touch sensitive targets.
So how did Israel react to this? A missile hitting near their main international airport. I imagine the response wasn't exactly subtle.
No, it was swift and very strong. Prime Minister Netanyahu condemned it forcefully. He vowed very strong action against the Houthis themselves.
And he mentioned Iran.
Directly. Said Israel would respond to their Iranian terror masters, his words, at a time and place of Israel's choosing. So clearly linking it back to Tehran.
Yeah, the defense minister.
Israel Katz. He went even further, promising sevenfold retribution, a very specific, very harsh number. Sevenfold. Okay. And this all happened while Israel was already gearing up for something bigger in Gaza, right?
Exactly. That time is crucial. The Israeli military had just announced they were calling up tens of thousands of reserve soldiers. They explicitly said it was in anticipation of a wider operation in Gaza. And remember, that security cabinet vote on intensifying operations was scheduled for just hours after this missile hit.
Talk about high tensions.
Absolutely. And then you had figures like the far-right national security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, demanding a powerful expansion of the war, even calling for bombing food and electricity supplies in Gaza. So the atmosphere was incredibly charged before the missile landed.
Right. The political pressure cooker was already boiling over.
No.
Okay, let's shift to the technology for a second. Israel has layers of missile defense, right? Iron Dome, Arrow. What happened here?
That's one of the most significant parts of this story. It appears to be the first time Israel has openly acknowledged that its defense systems failed to intercept a Houthi missile specifically targeting Ben Gurion. Which systems are we talking about? Not Iron Dome for this kind of threat, presumably.
Correct. For longer-range ballistic missiles like the type the Houthis claim to have used, Israel relies on systems like Arrow or HETS, its Hebrew name, and also the U.S.-made Fizod system. These are top-tier systems.
And they failed. Any idea why?
Well, the initial Israeli military assessment apparently suggested a possible technical glitch, maybe something wrong with the interceptor missile itself.
A one-off malfunction.
That was the initial thought, perhaps. But some expert analysis we looked at digs a bit deeper. People like Faisal Al-Hadri, Laithla Junaidi, Mohammed Sio, they point out a potential limitation.
Which is?
These radar-based systems, Arrow and Tha included, are really designed to pick up things like aircraft, which have a relatively large radar cross-section, or RCS. Think of RCS as how visible something is on radar.
Okay.
But high-speed ballistic missiles, especially if they're designed with stealth features, have a much, much smaller RCS. They're harder for the radar to see, basically. It might get a weak signal or maybe no signal at all.
So the radar might not have even tracked it properly.
That's the concern raised by the analysts. The system might struggle to lock onto something so fast and small.
And then there's the Houthi claim. Hypersonic. How fast are we talking?
Hypersonic generally means anything above Mach 5 times the speed of sound, if this missile was truly traveling at that speed.
The reaction time would be tiny.
Exactly. It drastically shrinks the window for any defense system to detect, track, and launch an interceptor. It's a huge challenge.
Are the Houthis known to have other advanced weapons like this?
They've certainly been developing their capabilities, often with suspected Iranian help. They have advanced drones, UAVs like the Samad 3, and there's another one called Yafa, which has even been claimed to have radar-evading, sort of stealthy characteristics.
Drones that can bypass radar.
That's the claim. And there have even been these sort of vague mentions from Houthi leaders about developing submarine weapons. What that actually means is unclear, but it suggests they're aiming to diversify their threat capabilities beyond just missiles and drones.
It definitely feels like a step change. A non-state group potentially hitting a major airport, bypassing sophisticated defenses. Let's pull back the lens. How does this attack fit into the wider regional picture, especially the Gaza conflict?
It's completely intertwined. You can't separate this from the ongoing war in Gaza that started back on October 7th, 2023.
The Houthis have been saying their attacks are about Gaza all along.
Consistently, they frame everything they do against Israeli or related targets as solidarity with the Palestinians. They've launched missiles towards Israel before, but hitting Ben Gurion. That's a different level of escalation.
And it brings other players onto the field, doesn't it? It's not just Israel and Hamas anymore.
Precisely. The Houthi actions effectively internationalize the conflict much more directly. Striking a major international airport seems calculated perhaps to provoke a strong Israeli response.
Which could draw in others.
Potentially, or at least gain the Houthis more attention, maybe sympathy in parts of the Arab world or globally, especially among critics of Israel.
And the Iran connection is key here.
Undeniably. Most analysts agree Iran provides significant support technology strategy to the Houthis. Netanyahu and Gantz explicitly blamed Iran's terror masters, as we heard, and Iran's own defense minister warned of retaliation if Iran itself is attacked. It's a shadow war becoming less shadowy.
And now there's talk of Russia getting involved.
That's another worrying layer. There have been reports, suggestions that Russia might supply the Houthis with advanced anti-ship missiles.
Anti-ship missiles for use in the Red Sea.
Presumably. If that happened, it would seriously escalate the threat to maritime security, which is already under pressure from Houthi attacks since November 2023. And it would turn Yemen even more into a proxy battleground for bigger powers.
So, the U.S., Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia, Israel, they're all in a tough spot, aren't they?
Extremely tough. How do you deter the Houthis effectively without triggering a much wider war that nobody really wants?
Especially Saudi Arabia, which wants to end the Yemen civil war.
Right. The Saudis prefer a negotiated solution in Yemen. For the U.S. and its partners, it's about protecting shipping lanes in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden, but also avoiding a regional blowup. For Israel, it's a major security challenge right on its doorstep, or rather, near its main gateway. Do they hit back hard against the Houthis, risking escalation with Iran, or do they tolerate this vulnerability?
And the Houthis seem willing to keep pushing.
Their strategy appears to be one of calculated escalation. Perhaps they feel they don't have much to lose. They've already caused significant disruption to global shipping.
And all of this is happening against the backdrop of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. We can't forget that.
Absolutely not. It's crucial context. The Houthis constantly cite the suffering in Gaza as their motivation. The situation there is dire. The halt of goods, entry by Israel to pressure Hamas, the collapsed ceasefires.
And the death toll.
It's horrific. Reports indicate over 52,500 Palestinians killed in Gaza as of early May 2025, the majority women and children. And tragically, reports of people dying from starvation too. This deep humanitarian crisis fuels the regional anger and is part of the narrative the Houthis leverage.
So summing this up,
Yeah.
this attack on Ben Gurion wasn't just a one-off incident. It's a really serious escalation.
Definitely. It shows the Houthis' capabilities are evolving, likely with outside help from Iran, maybe even Russia. It exposed potential vulnerabilities in very advanced Israeli air defenses.
And it just throws more fuel on an already raging fire in the region, all linked back to the Gaza conflict.
Exactly. It complicates an already incredibly volatile situation. Everything seems connected. The airport attack, the planned Gaza escalation, the Iran factor, the Red Sea shipping lanes. It's a complex web.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? When a group like the Houthis, a non-state actor, can potentially disrupt global travel like this, can maybe penetrate sophisticated defenses, what does that tell us about where conflicts are heading?
Yeah, what does it mean for global security? And what could be the unintended consequences of the responses that are likely to follow? It's, definitely a lot for all of us to consider moving forward.